We are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine, and our support remains unwavering. Ukraine is battling the most flagrant breach of territorial integrity in Europe in recent times. We must never forget that this war was started by Putin, who is trying to extinguish a democracy on our own continent. It is important that we stand together to defend the principle that aggressors should not succeed. The previous Conservative government led Europe in support for Ukraine. We were the first country to provide modern Western main battle tanks and to gift munitions and Storm Shadow missiles. We led the way on sanctions and trained tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers on UK soil. It is now incumbent on this government to leverage British influence at this crucial time for the West. Putin's relentless bombardment of Kyiv and KGB-style negotiating tactics show he is not serious about peace, which is why Russia must not be welcomed back into the international fold without a comprehensive peace agreement. So will the Prime Minister rule out support for readmitting Russia to the G7? We all want this terrible war to end. And as the Prime Minister rightly said, elements of that draft 28-point plan were unacceptable. Conservatives are clear that the blanket surrender of Ukrainian territory would mean rewarding Putin's unprovoked aggression. What is the government's position on reports that Ukraine's territorial integrity is on the table? Because if Putin is seen to emerge stronger from these negotiations, all our potential adversaries will be emboldened. Be in no doubt, Mr. Speaker, the axis of authoritarian states is collaborating to destabilize the West, aided by China, with Iran providing weapons and North Korea providing troops for Putin. It is precisely for these reasons that the government must continue to work extremely closely with the US and to understand their objectives. Parties like the Lib Dems and the Greens, who are encouraging us to decouple from the US, are putting their anti-American prejudice above national security. But, Mr. Speaker, given that in the last fortnight the Royal Navy has intercepted 2 Russian ships in our waters, and with Russian spy ships pointing lasers at RAF pilots, it is a disgrace that Reform are still blaming NATO for Russia's aggression. Although perhaps it should come as no surprise when their former leader in Wales was sent to prison last week for taking bribes from Putin. Earlier this year, Mr. Speaker, many countries came together to form the Coalition of the Willing, pledging to strengthen support for Ukraine. Can the Prime Minister update us on the planning and readiness of the Coalition of the Willing? What is its scope and terms of mission? And what can the Prime Minister tell us about a counter-proposal that is reportedly being submitted by the EU? Mr. Speaker, to stand with Ukraine, we need to know we can also stand on our own 2 feet. Last week, the Commons Defence Select Committee warned that Britain is unprepared for a major attack and the government is making glacial progress towards conflict readiness. So it is concerning that reports indicate the MOD faces a potential budget cut this financial year of £2.6 billion. Can the Prime Minister confirm whether this is true or false? Meanwhile, the EU is reportedly demanding nearly €7 billion for the UK to buy into its defence fund. Conservatives warned that this would happen. At the time the UK-EU reset deal was being negotiated, the Shadow Defence Secretary said that Labour had given away 12 years of British fishing rights in exchange for nothing. He was right. Will the Prime Minister rule out paying the EU for access to SAFE? Mr. Speaker, it is extremely disappointing that Europe is still buying Russian oil and gas. Moscow should be denied safe harbours for its tankers and profits, and Europe should ban Russian oil and gas sooner than its current 2027 deadline. I believe the Prime Minister agrees with that sentiment, so what pressure will he put on European countries to stop them buying Russian oil and gas? Mr. Speaker, the UK's genuinely world-leading support has made a material difference to Ukraine's ability to fight back against Russia's illegal invasion, support that I will remind the Prime Minister began under the Conservatives. Let's not forget that in 2022, Russia thought it could capture Kyiv and subjugate Ukraine within days. So let's wake up and face that threat from Russia. So finally, can the Prime Minister reassure the House that we will be boosting our own defence capabilities as well as using our influence to ensure that secure future for Ukraine?
Minister.
Well, can I start by thanking her for her support on Ukraine? I think it is really important that we stay united in this House. And can I readily acknowledge the role of the previous government in leading on Ukraine and, in fact, in bringing the whole House together on this issue, which it did for a number of years and allowed us a platform on which to build the support that we are now putting in place. In relation to membership of the G7, G8, the focus at the moment is on a ceasefire, so anything along those lines is a long way off. But, we have to remember that Putin is the aggressor here. He is the one who started this war. On territorial integrity, the sovereignty of Ukraine is paramount, and that's why any questions about the future of Ukraine must be determined by Ukraine. And that is why I've been speaking frequently to both President Trump and President Zelensky. President Zelensky probably 5 or 6 times in the last 2 or 3 days on a whole range of issues. Can I join her in her comments about reform? Because it is shocking that a senior official, the leader in Wales, has been jailed for over 10 years, a very significant sentence, for pro-Russia bribes. That is extraordinary. And that is why I say, and I say again, there should be that the reform leadership should have the courage to launch an investigation. How on earth did that happen in their party? And what other links are there? But today, and this statement and the question across the House will reinforce once again that reform with their pro-Putin approach would have absolutely no role in bringing allies together on important issues across the globe. Mr. Speaker, she asks about the coalition of the willing. 9 months ago, President Macron and I brought the coalition of the willing together. There are now 36 like-minded countries that meet and discuss frequently and align our positions and our support. That is a considerable achievement, and we have plans in relation to security guarantees, in relation to air, sea and land. Mr. Speaker, on the text of the agreement that's being worked on in Geneva, there was an intensive discussion about this, as she would have expected at the G20, involving a number of key allies, both the E3 plus key coalition of willing allies. And the strong consensus was that we should work with the text that's in existence, unacceptable though some parts of it are, because other parts are essential, rather than a different text, and that is the process that's going on in Geneva, and I think that's the right approach. On defence spending, I've made my position clear, and it goes with the strategic review of defence as well as to how we take that forward. The safe negotiations are going on with the EU in the usual way, and one of the commitments I made in relation to our reset with the EU was that we would do it by quiet diplomacy rather than shouting from megaphones across the channel. On oil and gas, she asks, and this is really important, we are taking every opportunity to have extensive discussions to take Russian oil and gas off the market. This has to be done across Europe. It has to be done beyond Europe. There are discussions I've had beyond Europe on this issue. It is vital that we press ahead, and we are doing so and taking every opportunity. But can I return to where I started? I do genuinely think it's important in this House that we're united on Ukraine. The only winner, if we divide on party political grounds, will be Putin. And I again recognise the work and the lead that the previous government took, which I was proud to support in opposition. I'm proud to take that forward as Prime Minister. I'm grateful for the support that we're getting from the opposition.